right, welcome back to Dave and Ren Conversations on grief and grief recovery and loss and horrific loss and all kinds of different losses. Our co-host, of course, is Ren Bester from South Africa. I wish I had his accent. We say that every time. And we're going to be talking today about one of the key concepts of a healthy grief recovery. And most of us want a healthy grief recovery. And it's this concept we've touched on, and it's comparing our losses to others. Okay. When we compare our losses to other people, one of two things can happen. One of those things is their loss is so much worse than my loss, I have no right to feel better. And the other thing is my loss is so much worse than their loss, they don't have a right to feel the way they feel. I'm the one that's hurting the most, and that can actually hurt my recovery because I call it sabotage our own recovery. We tend to do that. So if I think my loss is the worst, I might think I can never get out of that pit of grief, never live forward. If I think my loss isn't as bad as somebody, I don't have the right to have the negative feelings. Got that? Is that clear, Ren?
That's crystal clear, and I can relate to not feeling like your loss is bad enough.
Yeah.
Right? Because I didn't have the extreme death loss that my wife Adele had. And I didn't realize that there's so many different kinds of losses. Because we're not educated, we just move on with life and don't deal with things. And I certainly, even during the retreat, I had to replay your words in my mind when I felt an emotion and I cried. My first emotion or my reaction was, you don't get to do this because your wife's losses are worse than yours.
Yeah. And there are other people at the retreat that had losses worse than yours.
Absolutely.
In your mind.
And in my mind, yeah. Yeah. And we can even, it's crazy how deeply ingrained this kind of belief is, because even at a retreat and even being given the permission to grieve, it was still difficult for me to allow myself to feel those emotions and not feel bad or guilty about that.
And have you ever had let's say somebody really offended you and you were going to confront them? Okay. And you need to talk to them. And I know we've both been there. Everybody's been there with a good friend that might've hurt you. And then you plan, okay, I'm going to call them. And then there's a snowstorm or there's a storm outside or there's some other thing happen. I kind of gravitate to that. Well, I don't need to do it now. So I tend to put it off. So when you come to your own grief, it's almost a relief for a while. Well, somebody else is grieving so much more. I don't have to deal with my stuff. I just need to buck up. It's almost an easy out. What I'm saying is, you said it in our last video. I think that I'm looking for ways not to deal with it. And so comparing losses can actually give me an excuse. Well, my loss isn't that bad, so I can gravitate to that and not deal with it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a sneaky little thing that really hurts and harms our healthy recovery, because that puts us in a no action mode that I'm not going to deal with it. Because and the other thing is, we've been taught that if somebody else has a worse loss, you need to buck up and be thankful for what you got.
Yeah.
And I know you preached, right? And you sang.
Yeah.
I only preached. I did not sing because I wanted to keep my job and I didn't want to turn people off, right? So I only preached. But how many times did I preach when you're complaining about things and your life isn't going the way it needs to go? You need to think of people who really have problems and be thankful for what you have. Now, there is truth in that. There is truth that I should be grateful for what I have. And one of the key components we're going to talk about in future videos is the power of gratitude. Gratitude is a huge deal in grief recovery, because for a while we get so focused on what we've lost, we lose sight on what we have. So it's a huge deal. But in this video, we're talking about comparing our losses with others. And if we think the losses are worse than ours, the sneaky part is, it sounds good. I need to be thankful for what I have. Therefore, I don't need to complain about my petty little losses. And you found out So what happened to you at the retreat is you started looking at your own losses. So
Yeah.
tell us that process.
The idea of gratitude can exist without comparing my situation to
Yes.
someone else's.
Yes.
Because what if their situation changes? Do I now become ungrateful?
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
And so yes,
Exactly.
the gratitude is absolutely 100% key, but it needs to exist on its own without having to compare it to other folks. What's interesting to me is um, with regards to grief recovery and really any type of growth in life is we are hardwired to avoid pain. It's just the way we're wired.
Mhm.
And what I've found throughout my life, and in particular through this grief loss journey, is the only way past it is through it.
The only way
Is
past it
is an
is through it.
is an actual leaning into the pain, not trying to pretend it's not as bad as someone else's or it's worse than someone else's, or pretending it didn't happen, and just looking the thing in the face. I mean, this is what happened, and this is how I feel about it, and I'm allowed to feel this way about it. Doesn't matter in relation to anybody else. And there's something so powerful about facing the pain head on, leaning into the pain. And I know that that's uh, uh, it's a very one-dimensional statement, right? I don't want this, what I'm saying, to come across as, well, if you had this huge loss, just face the pain and everything's going to be okay. That's
No.
not what I'm saying at all.
Right.
There is over time, and when you're ready, and perhaps if you've joined a grief retreat and you've learned some tools and how to cope and how to grieve. But we avoid these things. I'd rather not, of course, I'd rather not feel it,
Yeah.
not feel what I'm feeling. But in order for me to find a way to live forward, which is our tagline, there has to be an acceptance of what's happened and a leaning into rather than running away from or comparing.
We had a couple come to not a retreat. It was a grief course at our house, testing out the material that we use at the retreat. We had like 23 people for 8 weeks. Okay. I figured out then 8 weeks is a long time. You know, and you live your normal life and you go to the group. Yeah, they can really help, but you don't want it too long. You don't want it, I think we met 12 weeks as a matter of fact. But at the retreat, we had so many different kinds of losses. We had people who had lost their children. We had somebody had lost like 2 children and things like that. Then we had somebody had lost a child to addiction, even though the child was still alive. That's now you're a recovering addict, so that's a huge loss for your parents, for Adele. That's a huge loss. It's not a death loss, but it's the death of a relationship the way it used to be. And you have fear factors and all that. And it was really interesting because one of the people who had lost a son said to another person who had lost a child to addiction, even though the child was still alive. And when the one who had lost the child to addiction started his story about 15 years of not knowing if the child is alive, dead, in prison, out of prison, not knowing where he was for 10 months, all those things. The one who had lost a child said to him, I would not trade places with you. Okay. Which in a way seems contradictory to what we're saying, but it's not. It is that every loss is in context of that person's life. I don't know the context. So to say my loss is worse than yours is meaningless. It does not help me. Now, there are people I would not trade places with myself. I would say their losses are worse than mine. But I cannot that might be a true statement from my point of view, because we've dealt with people who've lost 3 kids over a period of, a year. And I could go on and on and on. They've lost their husband. They've lost their kids. They've lost, we could just go on all day about. I would not trade places with them. But if I compare my losses to them and conclude I don't have a right to deal with my pain, I don't have a right to feel sad, then I've short-circuited my recovery. So I need to give myself, we talk, one of our vital key points is permission to grieve. And another one is permission to recover. And we're going to talk about recovery probably in the next video after this, 2 or 3 videos from now. And so I've got to own my stuff and give myself permission, no matter if everybody in the room has a worse loss in my mind than I do. It doesn't take away my pain. No, doing healthy things in healthy ways, facing my feelings, expressing, giving voice to my pain. I don't want to do it, but when I make myself do it and do the next right thing and do that, like coming to a retreat or going, taking the course, or going to coaching, grief coaching, whatever I need to do, doing that thing, I need to almost make myself do something like that. So comparing losses either way does not help. Either way.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, when you speak about going to a retreat or getting the course or doing coaching, if you are going to wait to feel like doing those things, you're gonna wait forever. You deserve to find a path that at least gets you towards healing and towards living forward. No one is expecting you to get over it.
Yeah.
Come now. It's been long enough. No one's expecting you to do that.
No, not at all.
But what you deserve is tools and people and a pathway to be able to live forward, to be able to heal, to see the sun shine again. There is purpose to your life.
Yes.
And it takes one step of courage to walk towards that.
In our grief course that you've referenced, that's, it's online. You can access it. It's very affordable. We have 5 big components, 5 big key things, and the last 2 are gratitude and purpose. But the first 3 have to do with permission that we're talking about here, permission to grieve. And then we'll talk later about permission to recover. And that we're really talking about both those things in this video. And one of those key components is stop comparing what you've been through with others. And as we grow in this, we can be grateful that for what we do have now. But to get there, we have to face our grief. That's what we're talking about. We have to embrace it. I like the term embracing grief. You say lean into the grief. And the more I try to hold off the grief and dealing with my grief, what happens is I call it debilitating grief. And debilitating grief is when it starts, my grief, my sadness starts to impact other relationships on this earth I want to keep in a negative way. And then I have this loss that I'm trying to deal with by avoiding. And then I pile on another loss of a relationship that might be dear to me. It might be with a child. It might be with a spouse. It might be with a friend. It might be with your God. So, and we'll talk about lament in another video, but when the God relationship with a lot of people is very vital and important. So for example, if I hear somebody say, I'm so angry with God, I'm not going back to church, or I hate God, I might say, well, they're in a worse place than I am. So I'm going to church. And yet I might be hiding the feelings I have for God, the negative feelings, because I'm comparing my loss to somebody who's just said, I'm done with God. Well, I'm not done with God. But if I haven't expressed to God, expressed and given voice to my pain with God, then I'm short-circuiting my recovery. I'm hurting my own recovery. So comparing losses with other people really does not help me. It's kind of futile. It's expended. You're expending energy that you don't need to do, and what it does is lead to more stuffing, and the angst is still there in my heart. So I've got to give myself permission to deal with my pain, no matter what others are going through in their lives. And it doesn't mean I'm not sympathetic or empathetic to others who have lost. No, it actually makes it better. I think this is a vital point of giving yourself permission to not compare your losses to other people. That's the vital point of today's video. So what do they do with it?
If you want some help navigating this journey, it's overwhelming. Sometimes you don't want to get out of bed.
Yeah.
Most times you don't want to get out of bed. We'd love to help. We have retreats that we've spoken about. We have a course that we've spoken about, and coaching, having someone walk this journey with you. We'd love to partner with you.
Yeah.
Sparkoflife.org, where there is always hope.
Love you, my friend. Thanks.
Love you, Dave.
See you for the next video.